Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Detour Live. As we always say, we've got a special edition for this show. And Johnny, I reckon I've done more prep for this episode. I've got pictures, I've got videos. Now with this technology, we can show videos in the podcast for the first time with audio. Jesus, Big Kev used to say, I'm very excited.
Yes, but this new deal with Facebook of cutting out all news content, is that going to affect our worldwide coverage?
I don't think we're classified as news, John. I think we make up facts that we believe are news. So I don't know if that classifies. So what can you tell us about our very special guest today, Johnny?
Well, I'm pretty excited about today's guest. One, I come from the old era where everyone were on the road and the track and the road. Bike riders did back in my day. But nowadays, and we talk about who are Australia's greatest all-rounders. We talk about Russell Mockridge and then Donnie Allen, who's a great Tour de France rider and 6-day winner. Even Danny Clark gets put in there, although he's more track. And, of course, Stewie O'Grady. But the guy we're about to talk to is right up there with the best, if not better than all of them. So multi-world champion, great winner of some fantastic races on the road, and it's none other than Cam Meyer.
Yeah, but hang on. As I said, I did the prep. I've got all the stats. I might as well read them out. This is Tour de France and Giro stage winner in the team time trial, two-time national road champion in the time trial and the road race. Tour Down Under winner 2011, Jake O'Hareld's son winner 2015. He's a two-time stage winner at the Tour of Swiss. Now, I was there for the prologue. He did have a tailwind going out, and that win changed dramatically for Cancellara, but he still won it. He's won 6 world titles on the track, 3 times in the men's points race, Madison with Lee Howard, 2 times in the men's team pursuit. What an intro. Cam Meyer, welcome to the show. How you feeling, mate?
Well, I feel a little bit short-changed there, mate. You've done a lot of prep, but you missed a couple.
Hang on, what have I missed? Hang on, what did I skip over?
No, you said 6 times world champion. It's actually 9. So you've missed 3.
9?
9
what did I miss?
World track champion.
So I got the 3. Yeah.
5 the points race.
Oh, 5. Yeah, right. I've shortchanged you for 2. What a great start to the show.
Thank you for everything else. That was great.
Yeah.
I meant to whack into my intro that you are one of the most modest, you're like myself, you're one of the most modest cyclists that have ever been around, which I've always appreciated with you, Cam.
Well, thanks, Johnny. It's good to be on the same modest level as yourself.
Yeah, Johnny being modest.
But I have to pump my own tyres up. There's no one else to do it. You don't have to worry about that, Cam.
We're talking about making up facts before. You've just done it there, Johnny. Hey, Cam, I want to ask you, has the national championship win sunk in yet? Because after that win, I mean, how many times were people saying to you, I can't believe you won that?
I had those exact comments about an hour ago, actually. I ran into a few people at the Cycling Australia offices and who I hadn't seen since the race, and they're saying the same thing. They're like, one of the best races, don't understand how that happened, asking me, do I still believe it? And no, to tell you the truth, I'm sure that race is going to be one of those ones that you want to turn on and watch in 5-10 years' time, because you're still a bit bedazzled on how it unfolded.
Well, it was the most emotional I've seen you in a long time post the finish line. We've got footage here with Durbo. It's the most I've heard you swear.
You are unbelievable.
I saved a few.
Oh my God. You are unbelievable.
I like this bit.
Every drink is on me tonight. Holy shit.
Every drink is on me tonight. It was a fantastic post-race scenes, and obviously that night there were celebrations at Jerry's establishment down at the Prince. But I was really impressed, Cam, with your speech to the group. You know, when you got up and spoke to Jerry and your team, you know, that win particularly on the back of a really tough year for everyone last year. I mean, it must have meant just the world.
Yeah, it did. It certainly did, and it was extra special to have Jerry and his wife Val there to celebrate both the victory of the women, Sarah Roy and myself. And what we were able to do in such tough times. Jerry unfortunately couldn't get to the Sandos Festival of Cycling, which Luke Durbridge won, and last year unfortunately missed my national titles. But just with the whole COVID pandemic, less racing, it's just unbelievable to have a guy like that still supporting our team and backing it in such hard times. So to give something back to him with a victory like that, for him to share that on that special day and then be able to toast to some nice drinks and some nice wine that night was just super special. So I was very happy to be a part of that, and that I could just give those few words back to Jerry for what he's done.
It was very special. Dan and I were lucky enough to be included into the after party at the Prince and to witness that. And you did speak very well. I'm a bit hazy on how the night finished. You might be able to help me a little bit on that. Dan.
My phone went off. Sorry. Phone's on silent.
Normally I'm copying all of that, but I make those mistakes. But there you go. Good one.
Sorry about that, mate.
I'm remembering back to the year before the national title. I reckon you were probably even more emotional because you'd stuffed it up the year before and you were so bloody pissed off, and to get that one was really important. I think this year was very emotional, but it was almost disbelief, as you just said. Where did that come from?
It's like I nearly have to prepare emotionally for the January or February around Buninyong each year, because every year it's just getting ridiculous now. 3 years ago, I got beaten and I thought I was the chance to win it. I went very close and couldn't hold the tears back on the podium. And then last year, finally, after 12 years of trying and being given so much flack from my West Australian brother and Luke Durbridge and teammates who had won it before for 12 years. So, to get it done last year was super, super special and really emotional. And then this one's just on another level again, and something totally different to the previous 2 years. So it's a fantastic race. It's always been close to me since I'd done it back in 2009 was my first elite title there. And I look forward to it every year, and definitely the last 3 years it's thrown up something very different each year.
That was great vision then, Dan, with just how emotional Jerry was. And of course he was in both races. He was in the team car with Dave Sanders for the ladies' race, and in with Matty Wilson for the men's race for the whole race. And he just he gets so involved and loves every bit of it. But I mean, like most of us, where he thought it was blown. I was driving a few VIPs around here and there, and I had a politician, I think the mayor of Ballarat, in the car with me as we pulled up at the Bell Lap, and they said, "Who's going to win it?" I said, "Oh, look, what's going to happen?" was the words that the politician said. And I said, "Oh, look, I don't know for sure." I said, "I got a feeling that Cal McCullough looks like he's in the box seat to win this from here. I'll tell you who won't win it. Team Bike Exchange, they've buggered this one up." That was my words of advice. So you certainly shot me down, mate. I can tell you. I was very happy for you to do that, of course.
We shot plenty of people down. We were copying it through the race. I mean, it's quite strange in a way that we're the loved World Tour team of Australian cycling, but on that day and the national titles, everyone wants to see us lose. So I think it's that wanting the underdogs to win. We go in with a team of 6 and we're World Tour professionals, and guys want to see that solo single rider who doesn't have a team all of a sudden upstage the big favourites. It's to see that fairy tale happen. And we were going around the course and some of the fans were throwing it at us. At 4 to go, when we had really lost control of this race, we were going up Mount Bunny climb, and there was a guy on the side of the road, and he's yelled out and he said, "You guys have stuffed this up. You're never going to catch me from here." Anyway, Lucas has turned around and given him a bit of a spray back. And about 5 minutes later, it happened again further up the climb, and Durbo's then having a one-on-one go at someone on the fan. And we're just sort of copying it because everyone could see us unraveling. And even the riders, we were asking for some help because we didn't have it under control. One of the other riders said, "You're the World Tour team. You've stuffed this up. You can do it. You can do it on your own." anyway, so we were just, from riders, from fans, we were just copping it, and no one believed in it. Like what John just said, Iffy, that no one thought we were going to win Bike Exchange. So it was I remember speaking to Durbo only a few days ago. We were just reminiscing on the day, and we said how bittersweet is after all the comments that we were copping that we actually pulled this miracle off. So that was pretty special.
I think even with about 3 laps to go, didn't Jerry say to Matty Wilson that the quality of the wine at the after party might have just dropped a few notches? And that's when the panic stations really kicked in. It's like, oh, geez, if we've cost ourselves the Prince Shiraz, this is serious stuff.
That's when I got worried. I can tell you.
It went through my head at one point in the race, and I've said this to a few of the women's team because they dominated our women's team. Like the way Sarah Roy won solo, Grace Brown coming in second. They went 1-2. We got to see them just before we started, and the emotions that they had and the celebration, how much they rode such a great race. At about 4 to go, I went, we're not going to have someone be in the top 10. You imagine tonight's dinner with Jerry, and we've got the women who have absolutely smashed it, and we've come nowhere. And it actually went through my head, this is going to be a strange night and a bit sour in all the guys' taste when we enter that room. So anyway, maybe that's what kept me going in that last 4 laps, just to plug on and see if I could pull something off.
You've obviously got a strong connection with Durbo, both being from WA, but I mean, the quality of teammates like that can pull a ride like that, I mean, it'd be pretty hard to describe in words what that sort of connection is like after something that you've witnessed that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, he's definitely a extra special teammate and one that a lot of people would love to have on their team, and we're fortunate enough to have him on ours and to race with him like I have done for so many years. I just thought about it the other day that in 2010, this is how far it goes back, in 2010, he was an under-23 rider. He wasn't in the professional ranks just yet, and we had the Commonwealth Games in Delhi in India. And I was lining up for the points race in a few days' time, and I'd lost all my teammates because they had the team shoot to do. I was going to be entering this race by yourself, and you could have up to 3 riders, and Australia were only going to enter me. Anyway, they gave Durbo a phone call, who was at the Geelong World Championships all the way back in Australia, and said, would you mind flying over to help Cam Meyer in the points race? And he's that type of guy. He was on the plane the next day, cut his celebration short from his World Championships, and was on the velodrome, hadn't ridden a track bike in over a year, and just stepped on and helped me win the gold medal in the Com Games. So he's that special guy that gets so much satisfaction out of helping someone else and burying himself to be able to get a result for the team, and not just his own right. And he's an unbelievable bike rider in his own right with the results that he has himself. So what we did that other day, I'll be very thankful, and I'm sure he'll let me know that I'm going to buy a few more beers over the next few years.
And if there was a few dramas after the Nationals as well, potentially with the Warnie and so forth.
Well, that's exactly right. You owe him plenty of beers, mate, because you promised him beers all that night. I got a feeling Jerry might have paid for everything that night.
I didn't get. Everyone keeps asking me, "Oh, what'd you buy? Did you get Turbo? How many beers did you get him?" When you have an owner like Jerry, a minute after I'd won, Jerry said, "You won't be buying any drinks tonight. They're all on me." Like, right, I just let the whole world know that I'm going to buy the drinks, and then I didn't buy one. So I'm definitely going to need to get over to Europe and shout them a nice dinner with some nice drinks.
Yes, well, that was the other part, as Dan just alluded to, of course, because no one was to know what was about to happen. But with the lockdown we went into Victoria, when you went back to Adelaide, like everyone had to quickly get back, but because you were honest in what you put into your where you'd been, you had trouble. They weren't going to let you come back to ride the Warrnambool, which was the next weekend. What was the story there?
Yeah, so we had done the night of celebrations in Greater Melbourne area, which then became a restricted zone that you would have quarantine. So when I'd come back to South Australia after the National Championships, it was written down that I'd been in the Greater Melbourne area for one night, to then reapply for an exemption to go to the Warrnambool and come back to South Australia, where I would need to come after the Warrnambool. My application got declined twice, so I was unable to then fly to Victoria and come back into South Australia because of the little outbreak that they had in the Melbourne city. And that was unfortunate. I got a little bit lucky in that the lockdown happened on the day before, or the day of the Warrnambool, and I was lucky enough that I couldn't travel anyway because I was declined the application.
Cam, we're just having a bit of problem with your audio at the moment. What I might do is I'll throw to a quick ad from our great mates at Bike Exchange. If I'll unclick the link and then re-enter, we should be able to reset the audio issues. So here's a quick word from our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
All right, we're back again with Cam Meyer. Now, I just had a message from Sam Welsford. He said audio wasn't bad. I was just getting a crackling. Were you getting that, Johnny?
No, not so much. Maybe it was you.
Oh, jeez. Might have been just my computer. Oh, well, Bike Exchange, we got the plug in early. So it's win-win. Hey, why don't we wind the clock back and go back to the beginnings of your career, Cam? When did the passion for cycling really start for yourself?
I started when I was 12 years old. I got a free pass to go to the track and try velodrome from a school camp that we were having. And it took off pretty quickly, actually. Probably only 2 years after that, I was going to the junior national championships to represent Western Australia. And as soon as I started doing those junior national championships, then it really kicked off from there, that I just loved both track and road. I did both national championships each year, and I strived to make the under-19 Australian team, and did so when I went into that category. And I was off to Europe to compete in the junior events, and from there it was about targeting an Olympic Games, which happened pretty quickly when I went to the senior ranks. I represented Australia at the Beijing Games when I was only 20 or 21 years of age, and from there I was lucky enough to go to professional, and have been professional for the last 10, 12 years, I think. So it's been a roller coaster ride that's been going for a while now.
What was it like when you first joined the Garmin ranks? Because you got thrown pretty much in the deep end. I think you did the Giro. You would have been, 21 at the time? I mean, we've talked a lot about, we had Will Walker on last year, the potential dangers at that period of having young riders riding the Giro, but now, 21-year-olds are winning the bloody Tour de France. How tough was that Grand Tour experience back then?
Yeah, that was a bit really unexpected. I was with Matt White in Garmin Slipstream, as it was known back in the day, and my first European professional race ever as a pro, when I turned professional at 21, White decided to throw me in the Giro. So I hadn't done any races in Europe, and Whitey goes and puts me in the Giro. So it all happened really quick, and I was thrown into the deep end very quickly, but I seemed to handle it all right at such a young age, and Whitey put me in there from my experience on the track, already having been to multiple world championships and the Olympic Games. He said, I think you can handle pressure, and there's not much more pressure than Olympic Games or world championships on the track, where it happens there and then, and you've got to be able to handle your nerves. So All of a sudden, though, when I was lined up at the Giro, the first year I had Bradley Wiggins, David Miller, Dave Zabriskie, Christian Van der Velde, Wright Hedgedale, all these unbelievable professionals that I had looked up to for so many years, that had been in the world circuit for so long. All of a sudden, I'm in a team's time trial, my first stage of Italy, and we're racing HTC for the win. And even though I'd done Olympics, that was very scary.
What was it like racing or riding with guys like Wiggo? What was he like behind the scenes? Tell the truth, Cam.
On the bike, he was ridiculous. Like, I remember doing some training sessions before that Giro, and we had 9 guys when we're meant to be a team and be together, spread 500 meters across the road because no one can hold his wheel. And then he was the one that controlled the music that was on the bus, and he definitely had a different personality from the bit of a robot sort of guy when you had him on, and that serious side of Wiggo when he was racing and wanted to really destroy and dominate an event. And then when he was offside, he was a great personality to have and a lot of fun. So on the bus, he was definitely, let's say, the DJ of the bus.
Iffy?
Those names are popping up, but tell us more about that. It seems ridiculous to get thrown to your first ever pro race to be a Grand Tour like the Giro. So my memories of that on how you went overall in that are quite right. So tell us about the race, because
Lance, that was his big comeback race, because we went to that Giro, and I remember winding Cam up. I was doing these stupid questions, and I remember one of them was, "What's the capital of Kazakhstan?" Cam
Didn't
goes,
get it right.
"Oh, don't know." And then we were giving you hints, and we said rhymes with cabana. You're going, "No." I go, "It's Astana." You're like, and I think the bus was right behind you.
I vaguely remember that. No, I still remember that I got stitched up with that one. And I never forget Astana now.
No.
No.
But the racing would have been intense, yeah?
Yeah, it was intense. It was a big year with Lance making his comeback. And I was there for those first few years of Lance. Even when I won the Tour Down Under, Lance was at the Tour Down Under that year that I was able to win the Tour Down Under. And the Giro was, I don't know, it was hard to fathom what I was actually doing at the time. I was just giving little jobs. There was no huge expectations on what I had to do. I do remember one story though, where we had the individual time trial, and it was a 60-kilometer individual time trial with a Cat 2 climb and a Cat 3, and it was going to take like an hour and 40, hour and 50 minutes. Like, I've never done anything like this before in my life. It's probably more than double, triple the distance I'd ever done. And Whitey goes, I said, "How do I write this?" I said, "We just want to make time cut. The next day we're riding for Tyler Farrar and Julian Dean in the next sprint, so you didn't want me to have a hard day." He goes, just sit your heart rate on 140 beats and that'll be fine. Anyway, I have a really low heart rate and did at that time. Whitey didn't know that. Anyway, that meant I was not going quick enough. And about 5 minutes into the time trial, the first guy's passed me. 10 minutes in, a second guy's passed me. I think by the end, 6 guys had passed me in this time trial. And I'd crossed the line. I remember going to Julian Dean and Tyler Farrar, who were sprinters, and we're going to probably make time cut, but they would have taken it easy as well. And I said, what time did you do? They were about 5 or 6 minutes quicker than me. And I remember just going white, going, I'm about to get time cut because I rode too easy. And I said to Whitey, "Mate, I just did that time trial in like an hour and 50 minutes. And he goes, "What were you doing out there?" I said, "I was just following what you told me to do." I said, "I've never done a Grand Tour 60-kilometer time trial before." I think it's last or second last on the stage, and I got in by about 30 seconds over 60 kilometers. And Whitey thought he was a miracle worker. He's like, "Perfect. Didn't use any." I said, yeah, exactly. "I'm never listening to you again."
Well, I remember because we were over there for a week with Jerry doing a little bit of getting ready for the GreenEDGE launch into the world scene, and we had a painted up van and bus and whatever. We're sort of mooching in on the world tour, and I remember I think I followed you for part of that time trial, if I remember rightly. I pulled up.
No, John, that was 2011. He's talking about 2009.
Oh, yes.
2 years off. But it's a good story.
You might have followed me in the 2011. You might have followed me in the 2011 one. I was a bit better there.
I think I did.
I think I ran ninth into 2011. So I was a lot better.
Yeah, you're right. I got my years mixed up. That's correct. Yep.
Well, you're talking about the Tour Down Under win in 2011. There's the front page of the Advertiser the next day. Young gun wins Tour by just 2 seconds. Speed cam. If you look a little bit closer, Johnny, you've got as Lance gets the boot in the corner there. And I remember that Down Under because the heat was dialing up with Lance. And I think we've spoken on this show before. Scotty and I were trying to do grabs with Fox, and there was legitimate journos there trying to ask proper questions. And we weren't part of that, group. We just wanted to sort of suck up his ass and get more grabs. And he wouldn't talk to journos for a long period there. And we said to him, what's the go with Lance? What's his beef with us? And they said, nah, there's a journo there that's asking, prickly questions. So we're having to go at that journo, going, mate, just leave him alone. We want to have a chat with him. Stop doing your job. So it was funny how that whole period, like the journos would actually do the fighting for him. But Cam, to win that Down Under at such a young age, I mean, what did that do for your psyche and confidence in the world of road racing?
I think it changed my perspective that I'm no longer now a rider that can just say, oh, you're here for experience or you're just trying to still improve. I was improving, but there was now the fact that I could go to races and challenge for wins or step up to events and target certain results. I know I did win that one by the smallest of margins, but it definitely gave me the confidence that the next year in 2012 and 2013, I went to 2 Grand Tours in 2012 and then 2013, my first Tour de France. And I know those next 2 years, I really stepped up to a rider that went to events to target certain results. And so it did a lot for me from that confidence side of things.
Well, you're talking about 2012. I've got some vision here of your ride in the Worlds on the track. This is a sensational moment. This was obviously in Melbourne, and there's 7 laps to go.
If he can close that gap in the next kilometre and a half, he's going to win the world title. The race is finally poised here.
Can you take us through the last couple of laps here, Cam? You're obviously trying to lap the field to win the title, and it's just touch and go.
Yeah, so I'm down in like 8th place currently. I need the lap take to get 20 points to be able to win and jump all the others, and I'm running out of time to take this lap. So I'm just digging in as hard as I can. And I have to bridge to that main bump to get 20 points.
It must have been amazing with the home crowd there as well in Melbourne, because they're just going absolutely bananas, and obviously in COVID times.
Yeah, it was the most unbelievable experience to race in front of a full capacity Australian crowd and get on with 2 to go to win the championship. I was the favourite going in. I got 2 golds and a silver in the last 3 world titles in that event. So I was heavy favourite, and yeah, to pull something off like that. I like to keep the crowd on edge. It's the same with the national road title. Don't know why. I've got it under control. I don't know why everyone panics so much.
And here's the final lap, Cam. I'll crank the volume.
Ben Swift's going to win the sprint here, up to the line. He gets to 5. Di Catella of Italy gets to 3. Kadlec gets to 2. And what it means is that Ben Swift has got the silver medal.
Takes me half a lap.
Courageous, heroic effort, gladiatorial by Cameron.
And now you realise that you won.
Yeah. Now I start going nuts.
Get the 20-point bonus, and that is why the crowd are going well.
Delayed reaction, mate.
Well, I only won by 1 point, and so I didn't want to start celebrating, because if it was a draw and it went on count back, it could have gone to the British rider from the last sprint, and so I just didn't want to celebrate and go nuts too early for then it to go, oh, I've lost my comeback. So I did, but once I knew I'd won and I started celebrating, I think I was on the track for another 10 minutes. You couldn't pull me off it. I was just doing lap after lap, just soaking in the crowd.
I remember being there, and I remember the crowd wouldn't let you off. I mean, the crowd never stopped yelling that whole 10 minutes you were rolling around. It was pandemonium. But I remember watching that last, and it reminded me back then, it looked like as you were catching riders to make the lap, they were getting dropped off. So that, almost, oh, you're there. Oh, hang on, no, they've dropped off. And then you catch the next one, and they've dropped off. It looked like, when's it going to be actually counted? It was quite strange.
It was strange, and I had to keep going just because I didn't know when they were going to actually deem the lap as a lap take to get 20 points. So it took a little bit longer than I would have liked if they stayed together. So
this is the part that, I mean, it must give you the irrits, Cam, more than anyone on the planet. That is such an entertaining race to watch, and the Madison's such an entertaining race to watch. Why wouldn't you have that in the Olympics every year? Like, every time? Because from a spectacle point of view, I mean, how many more boring editions of swimming do we have to watch? You get these swimmers that are coming home with a bloody dozen golds. Like, it's ridiculous. Whereas you have a spectacle like that. I mean, you're one of the most unlucky guys. I think we were talking about this the other night in terms of look at how many world championships you won. Whereas if the points race and the Madison were Olympic events, you could be multiple Olympic gold medal winner.
Yeah, it's probably a touchy topic. It's one that probably the unlucky part of my career has not been having the chance to race a points race or a Madison at the Olympic Games since Beijing in 2008, and I won 6 world titles up until 2012, and that's when they took it out of London Olympics, and I would have gone in favourite for both the points race and the Madison, and I didn't get to do it, and then Rio they still kept it out. And look, I mean, the Olympics is something unique and different. I'll never really totally understand why they removed those events. Luckily enough, the Madison has come back in for Tokyo, and hopefully Tokyo gets off the ground, and possibly I'll get that chance to have something that I wanted to do many years ago.
Who would you be riding with in Tokyo?
I don't know. There's so many talented riders within our Australian track squad. I mean, if you saw what they just did in January over the Sandoz Festival of Cycling and at the National Championships, Luke Platt was absolutely flying. Sam Welsford, one of the fastest guys in the world on the velodrome and very quick on the road as well. Kell O'Brien had an unbelievable championship. And then you've got experience like Lee Howard, who's been a multiple world champion in the Madison as well. So there's a lot of guys putting their hand up for selection for that event, and we're in training at the moment with multiple sessions through the week, changing partnerships and seeing what the best combination is. And when the Australian team will make that selection, I don't exactly know, but I know whoever they do put on the park when it comes to that race in Tokyo, that we'll have a good chance, and we'll put our best foot forward.
We've got a couple of comments. Obviously, Wendy Superfan, was so awesome to watch Cam come over the finish line in person. That's obviously the Nationals. The atmosphere was electric. We've got Jenny Whitehead says, that was a fabulous night talking about the track worlds from 2012. Great atmosphere. Everyone was screaming. And we've got another question for you. How do you feel about being a marked man in points and Madison, Cam?
Oh, it's not easy. Certainly not easy to be a marked man on a velodrome. There's no hill that you can take them up to try and drop them, or go through a corner and see if you can corner fasten them, or a little bit of wind action. So I just learnt over many years that you got to be composed. That was the biggest thing. I remember one world championship. The first time I lost, I was world champion in 2009 and 2010. I went to the 2011 thinking, I'm going to win. I'm going to win my triple world championship crown. And I got beaten by a Colombian, and I lost it out there. Like, everyone was following me. I couldn't get the 20 guys off my wheel. I didn't know what to do. We go on a track, you can't escape them. They're still there. So I remember coming off, and Matthew Gilmore, the coach at the time, he had good words to me, and he goes, you'll learn more from that race than a couple of world titles that you had won in the previous years. And since then, I was able to handle the pressure of 20 guys following you around the track, and It's about being composed, and I've always learnt that the race is never over until the finish, and that's similar to the National Road Championship this year. That you can win bike races by the last second or the last metre of a bike race. As long as you keep yourself within the race, you're always a chance.
That's the one thing, Cam, I've always been very impressed with you is your just tactical nous. And that's not something you can teach. Well, you can teach a little bit, but really you've obviously had it right from the beginning, and you say you learn from other things. And that's one of the reasons I reckon it'll be you and one of those other guys you've mentioned riding in the Madison at the Olympics, because you can't just invent that. And your experience and tactical knowledge will be is equal to about a dozen points, I reckon.
I hope so. It's definitely not the most easiest race to read, and it's very complicated, and experience counts for a lot. And you see some of the best riders in the world. They're a little bit older and experienced when it comes to the Madison, and you can combine that with some young, strong, fast legs, then it can make a really good combination. So hopefully I get selected, and hopefully I can bring all that experience to the table when it matters for an Olympic.
Hey, Cam, how different is the chemistry from a team on the road to the chemistry with the guys on the track? We were talking about Wiggo and that as personalities before. I mean, have you seen big differences with the two?
Yeah, it's slightly different. Obviously, the atmosphere is a little bit different because on the track, you will see each other a lot more than you do on the road. The road, once you get to race, then you'll spend a lot of time with the guys. But outside of that, we sort of live in our own countries, and besides the training camps and the actual racing, you don't spend as much time. Whereas here in camps with the track team, it's week on, week out that we spend training sessions together, meetings together, tactical meetings, all those sorts of things. In terms of the personality, don't know, the road boys don't like the gym, and if you talk about protein or putting muscle on, they sort of laugh. And I'm a little bit of a funny story to them because I'm crossbreed between the two. And then you go to the trackies, and they sort of find me funny because I'll be out doing a road ride in the hills, and they're like, "We've got a track session tomorrow. What are you doing?" So they are a little bit different in personality, but I love both. I love the breakup of both, and I love competing in both events. So, yeah.
Now, you obviously rode for a period there with your brother Travis, and he broke through and won the national road title in 2010. You two have obviously got a strong bond. I found another cracking photo of you two on the podium there. Have a look at those two. You look like members out of Green Day with the peroxide blonde hair. What was it like riding with Travi? And when he won the nationals that day, be honest, how jealous were you as a brother?
Yeah, it was great to ride with my brother, and that was pretty special to spend a fair few years in the same team together and ride professional together. Yeah, look, that year that we did win I probably wasn't super jealous then because I won the time trial and he won the road race, and it was pretty special for both of us to be the Australian champions of that year in the same year. So, but as the years went on, and he had won the event that I would love to do, and the more flack he could give me, it started to eat away at me a little bit. But no, it was special to see him win that, and for us to win it in 2010, 10 years later, 2020, and both be able to say we're Australian champions is something special for our family, that's for sure.
There's not a massive age gap. What's the age gap between you two?
Year and a half.
Okay, so not major differences. Obviously, you're still riding. Travi was with GreenEDGE for a couple of years there. Then he rode with Drapac, and now he's working in finance back in WA, and looks like he's kicking some pretty big goals in that industry. But we've talked about on this show a few times about the cycling transition. How did Trav go with that transition from being identified essentially as a bike rider to going out and forging a career post cycling?
He actually did it pretty well from what I can see and what I know of him now in the business world. And I think you learn a lot through the sporting industry. I mean, people can say that we only know sport and maybe it doesn't translate across to business or the normal workforce. But Trav's done really well, and I think that confidence that we have to talk in the media, we have to talk in front of crowds, we have to engage with sponsors, and that ability to have that confidence when he does go into a situation that maybe is a little bit foreign to him, he settles in really well. And when he did take off in finance, mortgage broker world, then he brought those skills that he had learnt through a lot of traveling, a lot of media engagements into that, and it's worked really well for him. And he's got a little baby now, so life's a little bit different, but he never is shy of calling me up after a race and trying to get a lowdown on the old cycling talk still.
Well, we're going to talk to Cam about the GreenEDGE years and so forth, but before we do, we should do a quick plug for the sponsors. You've got your script finally. You're prepared. Do you want to kick things off with?
Forget it once. You never let me off the hook.
Do you want to kick things off with our great mates at Let's Go Motorhomes?
We've got no script for that. We don't need one. Funny, I've been up at, we had my lockdown in the Gambia and walked out of the supermarket yesterday, and right in blocking my way is a great big Let's Go motorhome that almost run me over. I've got the number. I think that's the same number as the one, so I'll report them to the police. Yeah, they've been going great guns. I mean, of course, the whole world's been affected by the.
I think we need a script, mate. I think we need a script. I don't know if selling a product saying that you almost got run over by one is going to make people go, "Oh, sweet." Where's the website?
I think if it had got me, a lot of people would go out and buy Let's Go motorhomes for sure.
Well, that's a good point.
But they're going great guns. Even though the internationals aren't coming out, everyone's decided they want to see a bit of Australia, so Let's Go is the way to do it.
And obviously a company that's just exploded through this pandemic is Jayco, Johnny.
Yes, well, funnily enough, all the Let's Go motorhomes are Jayco motorhomes. I know you'd find that hard to believe, but that's the way it goes. And as we always say, of course, if you're going to buy a caravan, you should look at you right there, mate. You're coughing into the thing. Yes.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was Cam.
That was me.
Okay, I'll let you off, Cam. Jayco, I say, look, of course, if you want a caravan and you're into cycling, you would go and get a Jayco just to support the man who has supported our industry for a quarter of a century. But hey, where else would you go if you want a caravan other than a Jayco? They're the best on the market.
And talking about best on the market, and we can vouch for that after last Sunday night, Mitchelton Wines. Johnny?
One of Australia's favourite wineries, and definitely our favourite, and a place of escape. Experience the history, the beauty, and the serenity of the Goulburn Valley at your own pace. I just spent a week floating around in the Goulburn River myself, looking over the vineyards from the iconic tower, staying at the new hotel, relaxing by the pool, recharging in a day spa where you can quiet the mind, unwind the body, and rediscover balance in a setting of peace and harmony. Explore the seasonal menu at the Muse, wonderful restaurant where local produce offers worlds of flavour. Sample our seasonal menu with all the wines perfectly paired. I say our like it's partly mine, but anyway. Stop by the Providor and tour the cellars, and of course, taste their highly awarded signature wines. Always to be enjoyed. Taste the craft and the care in every bottle at their cellar door. Mitchell has become a very popular venue for weddings, and there's a happy couple there, and to celebrate those special occasions. And of course, you must visit the Aboriginal Art Gallery, which is a must. It's world-class. Matter of fact, it is the largest private Aboriginal art gallery in the world, and amazing pieces. And there it is, the $10,000 Land Cruiser with the $500,000 paint job.
It's gone back. We've reset it to 500K. All right.
It's back.
It just keeps fluctuating. Yeah. It's like cryptocurrency. Okay. Thanks again to Mitchelton, Jayco, Let's Go, and of course, Bike Exchange. Now, Cam, talk us through when you first went across the GreenEDGE. Obviously, there was a lot of hype. First Aussie World Tour team, Jerry was behind it. Obviously, Whitey's on board. You got all these iconic Aussie riders, Stewie O'Grady, Robin McEwen. What was the whole feeling like in those early days?
Yeah, it was certainly exciting to have an Australian team and be a part of the first Australian World Tour team starting up, and there was a lot of hype around and what we could bring to the table as an Australian group now united together rather than spread across 15 teams. And probably the start was a little bit chaotic in some ways. I guess it is like that with starting any new team. You're still trying to find the structures and find the right way, but we were definitely enthusiastic. We had some interesting team training camps.
There's some footage now of the 2012 road title where you went off the front.
I don't really want to watch that one, but
so for the viewers that don't know, the 2012, it was the first big race for the team, and a lot of pressure. Everyone's in the break. Cam goes off the front. Neil Stevens is sort of licking his fingers. I remember hang on, we might have to end it there. Cam's just gone hunger flat. But it's all right. Gero won the day, but I can still remember being on the corner and everyone was so excited. And Neil was there. And I think there were signs that, you wanted a bottle or some food or something. And I remember you'd just gone hunger flat and got caught. And Jerry looked to Neil and said, "What's the plan now, Neil?" And I just remember this. He looked like a toddler that had just soiled himself, like he didn't have answers. And I thought, oh, geez, here we go. But Gero won it. It was all good. And that 2012, I mean, Gero got the team out of a fair few pickle situations. But as you said, like it was very different. Like obviously with the training camps, and anyone that's seen All for One, there was a big crash when they were simulating sprint training and all these sort of things. But it must have felt pretty good being with all these guys for the first time that you'd race with. That there was a lot of hype. Obviously, what if we ever had an Aussie team?
Yeah, definitely. It was great. Some of the guys that I really looked up to, with your Robbie McEwens and Alan Davises and Stuart O'Grady's in the team, was pretty surreal to be racing alongside them. And probably wasn't until a little bit later on in the year when we started to really gel together that the appreciation for the knowledge that they were passing on to me really was something special. I remember doing I think it was the Tour de Suisse, and I had Stuart O'Grady and Baden Cook looking after me from a GC perspective, and their guidance was second to none. And I learned so much through those years from those guys that were just right on the end of their careers, and to be able to have a chance of representing the Australian team and bringing those Australians into one group and be able to learn from was definitely a great chapter in my career and helped me go on from there.
Can you remember a couple of key things that they taught you when they passed on that advice in those early days?
Well, I think it was a continuation of that be cool and calm under pressure. Stewie was a big one for it. Stewie just wouldn't panic. There was chaos going on. Like there might have been crosswinds happening, could have been raining sideways and guys falling off their bikes, and we're on a course that's just looks like it's death basically. And Stewie would be there and would keep everyone organised and keep everyone calm in situations where you just panic. And I remember from him, I'd learned how to do it on the track, but probably the road is even more complicated being in bigger pelotons and being a longer distance race, 4 hours to make mistakes. Stewie definitely passed on a lot of that. And the same with a guy like Aiden. Aiden was a little bit different to Stewie, but when he had the role of protecting one of his athletes, he kept a really calm head in those situations and guided me through finishes that I just didn't know how to do at that stage. And both of them were super good at being able to pass on that knowledge.
One of the big highlights, mate, must have been, of course, the 2013 Tour de France. You had the stage win with Gero, the team time trial win, the days in yellow. But that team time trial, I mean, you had a pretty big role rolling off the start line, and you were going to lead the guys out. I mean, we're looking at some of the highlights vision there. Geez, it must give you some good feelings when you think back to that period.
Yeah, I couldn't have dreamed of having a better first Tour de France. We had a little bit of pressure trying to get GreenEDGE's first victory in the Tour de France, and when Gero pulled that off on Corsica Island on stage 3, it was huge, and a little bit of weight lifted off our shoulders, and thought, you know what, why don't we just give this team time trial a crack? I reckon we can really have a good good ride here. And I remember speaking to Whitey, and there's always who's going to start and who's going to get the team off. It's a pretty important role to get the team up and going to the certain speed as quick as possible without doing it stupid. And just from my experience of being on the track and having done team shoots before, he went with me and the lead the guys down the start ramp of the Tour de France in a team time trial when we just won the stage before, and we were contesting for a yellow jersey. It was pretty nerve-wracking, but that day will definitely be a highlight. It was something special, and then being able to defend the jersey for the next 4 days, riding on the front with the yellow jersey behind, it's what young guys just dream of. You watch documentaries of defending the yellow jersey and riding into the ground to try and protect the yellow jersey, and I had the opportunity of doing that for 4 days in my first ever Tour de France. So there's some special memories definitely of that 2013 tour.
It was pretty special. You probably won't remember this as well as me, but I was a bit crook, as you know, on that tour. But that night, because I was in the big marquee with Jerry when you guys brought it home and got the yellow jersey. That night at dinner, normally the riders all sit together and the officials sit on a different table. But Jerry said, I think because I had a bit of cancer, I think he thought I was going to die. He said, "Tonight you're sitting with the boys." So he let me sit with you blokes that night in the pub. So I remember it very well, but it was pretty special.
I remember being at the finish line, and I remember I couldn't get backstage to film or watch, what was going on the screen. So I sort of knew that they were close. And then I remember saying to Dave McKenzie, like I heard you guys all shouting and screaming. I remember just saying, "Did they do it? Did they do it?" And Macca goes, "Yep, they won. Garro's in yellow." And I remember the emotion was too much. I remember I literally sank to the ground and I bawled my eyes out for 2 minutes because I knew what that meant. And you got all these French, but you got all these French crowds looking at this guy just sink to the ground and just start bawling his eyes out. I mean, that was just an unbelievable period. And you look at the whole journey of it all. I mean, to have those memories that you've got forever and to see what it meant to so many people, like behind the scenes and the progression of everything, it's fantastic that you can recall on that.
There was that 4 or 5 days. 4 or 5 days that we will never forget. It was from the stage win, that getting the green and then passing it over to Darryl. That all happened in just 5 days, 5 amazing days. But you jumped in just a minute ago with your story, Dan, when I was about to hear Cam talk about how special it was for me to have dinner with him that night. But it doesn't matter. It's okay.
John,
I'll get over it.
This is not about Cam, it's about me. Remember that.
It probably goes back a few days before even that, from that first stage with the bus. So
I was about to say exactly that. Let's go back. Take us your memory of what you heard at the time when the bus had gotten stuck. And at this stage, did you know about what was going on in the race?
No, we didn't know it was the bus. We never got told anything about the bus. We just heard, guys, the finish line has been moved 3K earlier to the 3K banner. You will sprint to the 3K banner. And we all just looked at each other and said, "Did he just say what I think he said? No, it's a Tour de France. What the? Not a class." And all of a sudden we're running out of daylight or something, and you got to shorten the race by 3 kilometres to make sure we finish before the sun goes down. Like, what? Like, you couldn't even comprehend that in your own head, that we are all of a sudden sprinting to a 3K banner 3K before on the first stage of the Tour de France. So it was absolute chaos, that the finish of that. Just, it went from finishing at 3K back to the finish line, and some guys knew it had switched back, some guys hadn't, and then all the crash happened. And then it wasn't until afterwards that we found out it was our bus, and we saw all scenes from the footage and gone, "Ooh, are we meant to be here? Are we ready for this?"
And the thing is, if that finish was at 3K to go, it was right on a roundabout. Like, that would have been just like chaos.
Goodness.
They were all
would
no
have
one
been.
knew what to do, did they? No, everyone was panicking because the reason was set at 3K to go is because that's the only other place where they had the timing equipment. So that's going to be set there. But how they would have done that, I have no idea. As you say, it was a roundabout. There was nowhere to actually sprint to the line. They were just panicking. No one knew what to do.
It scares me
And
to think what would have happened.
I heard Christian Prudhomme in the was just absolutely flipping out behind the scenes because I think Keenan was in there, could hear it all. But I remember, at the time I thought, no, we're going to get kicked off the race for this. Like, this is it. Like, we're done. It was shocking. But I mean that whole tour, as we said, like the memories, and I mean it was great for the doco because we had this real pinnacle drama moment in the film when the bus hits the finish line. I remember in the cinemas, people just absolutely pissing themselves laughing. And the big story of all that was it was a $2,000 Swiss franc fine, and I think didn't they value the advertising at about 60 million US? John, it was back page of the New York Times, and Jerry said it's one of the best investments he's ever had in terms of the 2,000 Swiss franc fine.
But then he said the next night, he said, well, he was talking to Gary. He said, it's been fantastic. Gary, you've made us all of this publicity. But fellas, if we don't win a stage, all we're going to be remembered for is that bloody bus. So, luckily, Gary stepped up.
No pressure.
So Cam, you left the team at the end of 2015, and then you went to Dimension Data. But I know that was a really difficult period for yourself. I mean, do you look back now, and obviously you've come out the other side, and you're achieving some amazing things. But what did you learn through that sort of? Essentially, it was a crossroad moment for you in your career, and what you went through.
Yeah, it definitely was certainly a hard period for myself personally. I probably just got lost a little bit. I didn't know what I was as a bike rider or what I was good at in a way to be able to say, you want to be a GC rider, you want to be a time trialist. I'd sort of dabbled in everything from track to road to GC riding to time trialing, and I didn't really know where I was at. And from there, I moved teams at the end of that 2015 season and moved across to Dimension Data. And I think I just got to a point where I didn't know any other way but to take some time away from the sport to just evaluate where I'm at and what I want to still achieve in the sport and what direction I want to head in. And also a little bit of balance as well in the life. I only knew cycling. I only knew that to train full gas for this objective. And then when you don't have an objective, I was probably a little bit lost. And it took me a step away from the sport for 2 to 3 months. And I was actually did normal people stuff. I say normal people, but it should be involved in each of our lives anyway. I just didn't know really how to act without a bike. And I went off to London. And I remember I just had an apartment in London. I escaped. No one knew where I was. I did a full month in London, just living like a normal person. I go to the markets. I try different coffee shops. I go to theatre shows. I got my own personal trainer that I made sure that I'd catch public transport, and these are things that you just don't often do as a normal person outside of your elite sport, because you think, I can't walk 2 kilometers because I've got to save my legs for this training that I've got tomorrow. And I walked 2K, and I had a bodybuilder as my personal trainer, and I was running with sleds and doing chains and carrying chains on the back of my shoulders, and he just absolutely tortured me through this personal training session for an hour, and I'd have to walk 2 kilometers home. And I just did something different that I'd never done in my life. And it took me then to realize I've got to get a better balance in my life, and I still want to cycle and I still want to achieve these certain things. And then when I came back, I made the directional change that I wanted to, and I've loved it ever since, and still been able to achieve some great things in my career since that time.
Do you think that's a big issue with a lot of riders, not having that balance? Like, it will essentially, as you found, lead to burnout.
It does. And I think it's accepting the environment that you're in a little bit, in terms of trying to find that right environment, should I say. I remember I probably took for granted a little bit what I was able to see and do in my career, and I didn't take that the people around me, the environment, the culture that I was in as I should have, and I was just so narrowly focused on trying to achieve certain things that only involved bike riding, and not enjoying the actual people that were around me and the different things that I could do outside of off the bike. And now I really enjoy those sort of things. I really enjoy the camaraderie. I enjoy different things off the bike, and then I enjoy the culture and environments, and especially within the team that I am now. And when I rejoined the GreenEDGE family from 2017, 2018 onwards, I've really seen a change in my own personality and a little bit in my general life as well.
Is one of the biggest lessons, like that must have been such a hard conversation to have with your Dimension Data team at the time to say, hey, I need to walk away. But have you learnt through that if you don't make those hard calls to make that change, you won't see that massive development to essentially make yourself happier?
Yeah, certainly. I remember before I made that announcement to my team, those few weeks leading up to just going over, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get it out of my head. I didn't know if this was going to be the right decision. When I made the decision and told my team, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done to just rip up a contract basically and throw it in the bin. I mean, people would dream about having a World Tour contract, and all of a sudden I've got one, and I tore it up halfway up through a season and walked away. But that was fantastic. Doug Ryder was very accepting that he knew something was going on and that I needed time away, and I couldn't explain it. I didn't even know how to explain it fully myself. So he was very understanding, allowed me to have that time away, and we've seen each other at races since I've come back to the cycling. And even though I'm not in his team, he's been really good about that. But if I hadn't made that call, then I don't know where I would have been today. Possibly I'd just get to a point where you fully walk away from the sport just because it becomes too much. So you have to make some hard calls at certain stages of your life, and you know that there's always going to be that sun comes up the next day. It might be a bit cliche to say that, but definitely I've learned that the sun will come up the next day, and there's something new to discover and something new to learn in life. And you've got to try and look at the positives at all stages, even when you're going through the hard times.
Do you reckon, Cam, that would have helped you through the whole pandemic challenge of last year?
Certainly. I reckon if you had a 2015 and 2014 Cameron Meyer through this pandemic, I'd have gone nuts, because the only thing I knew how to do was race a bike. So I definitely wouldn't have known how to handle the crisis or events around me getting cancelled and being in lockdowns and certain things that we had to endure last year, and still a little bit to this day are enduring within the global pandemic. So certainly it's helped me now. You know that, okay, an event gets cancelled, there will be another event later on down the track, and just to be able to enjoy some own personal time when we don't have as much racing on, but still being able to train and enjoy bike riding and be healthy and fit. So they're the things that I get to look forward to in my life at the moment, and being healthy and fit is a big one. And I've got great friends and great events that are still going to come down the track.
So tell me about the phone call, or how did it reconnect to rejoin GreenEDGE? Because that obviously was another huge moment to come essentially home.
Yeah, when I started racing again, I said, I've got to go back to my grassroots, basically. What made me enjoy cycling, that started with a track bike. So I went back to the track and started racing World Cups and World Championships, and I had some good success winning 2 more world titles in 2017. And then I got to race with the young guys, and actually I felt a little bit old. I was probably a little bit stale in my own personality and things that I did in my own personal life. So all of a sudden I was joined by a bunch of 21-year-olds that are jumping around with like chickens with their heads cut off. And it sort of drew me into that excitement again. And I started racing some some races back. I joined the Uni SA team at the Tour Down Under, and I didn't have the huge pressure of a World Tour team lineup. And I had these 5 young guys under me that I could put my experience across to, and I thrived in that, and thrived in being able to help younger guys and race alongside them and teach them things that I knew. And from there, I was just able to achieve really good results. I think I was 4th in the Sun Tour that year. I nearly pulled off the Cadell Evans race. I was 3rd, just got pipped on the line. I had a good national championships. I had a good Tour Down Under with Uni SA. I went 3rd, I think, in the Ampost Pax Tour and won the Belgian 1.2 race. And from there, Shane Bannon had the development team of the GreenEDGE bike exchange team and wanted me to be a older member to be able to pass on my experience to that younger generation within the development team. And from there, I said, look, I'm ready and want to step back into the World Tour at some stage. And we came up with a contract that spent 6 months with the younger riders. And then I moved back into the World Tour. And that was really exciting to have Shane connect with me and go back to some exciting times within the Australian World Tour squad.
I remember that you mentioned the Sun Tour that you ran 14, and you actually had fantastic form. But you were riding with, the Australian team in national team, and it became actually you almost cost GreenEDGE the win there because Damo punctured in the worst. If you actually try to pick a spot, it would be the worst place to puncture in the whole race. That's where he punctured. Remember that?
Yes, I remember you bringing up controversy right now.
It was an amazing time because you guys were off the front, Damo's punctured, and the race was over. Actually, it was over because you guys had to keep going.
That tested me because I was the one that everyone turned to make this decision at this crucial moment. And on one hand, I had these young guys that I had a responsibility for. I was on the same team as them. I was the team captain. And that's young guys like Jai Hindley, who's 2nd at the Giro now, Lucas Hamilton, Michael Storer, who have all gone on to World Tour. And we were riding unbelievable. And all of a sudden, the leading World Tour team, GreenEDGE, have Damien Housen in the yellow jersey. And we are piling on the pressure, and he punctures. And I'm all of a sudden stuck in the middle of, I've got 3 young guys here who want to go, and we could go and possibly win this tour, or do we wait for the World Tour team and the yellow jersey that have punctured? And it's that real strange ethical point in bike racing of what do you do at that stage? And I can't say.
You're thinking of Jerry Ryan, the Godfather, going, "Don't go against the family."
Yeah, I'm also looking at joining the team the next year. So
that would have been career suicide there, Cam. You made the right call.
I know, but that was a look. You've nailed it. I'm glad you're being upfront with it all. But tell us, so what actually happened? Who actually called it? I remember that Sky. What's his name? Froome. Chris Froome got involved in the decision making as well.
Well, actually, not to throw Chris Froome under the bus because I think he's an absolutely awesome guy. But Sky were the actual ones who kicked it off on the hill. So Froome and the Sky team kicked it off. They say they didn't know about Damien Housen's puncture, which was a little bit chaotic. They were always going to attack on this climb because we had to try and put time into Damien Housen. And Froome actually kicked it off, and we went over the top, and all of a sudden it was Froome and I think it was Kenny Ellison, 2 Sky riders, and then me with my 3 young national team, trained team riders, and all of a sudden we got a group of 6, and Sky are pushing on, and we're like, do we push on as well because this has already happened and it's already established and Chris Froome is pushing on with it, or are we all going to make an alliance that we sit up and wait for Damien Housen to catch back on? It was definitely chaotic times at that point. So I had a lot of arguing going back and forth with the directors in the car. And yeah, thankfully it all worked out. I think we ran second, third, fourth in the tour, and Damien Howson won it, and I was able to join GreenEDGE the next year.
We love a happy ending. There's nothing like a happy ending. That's good stuff.
So Cam, what's the plans now? Obviously, there's a big build up to Tokyo. Is that obviously consuming your whole thought process building up to the games? What's your 2021 look like?
It's a little bit confusing at the moment. This pandemic throws a little bit of a spanner in the works in some ways with the Olympics and how I can prepare for it, because my commitment still to the road team, and I've got to be able to be over in Europe and compete in the road events alongside trying to prepare for the games. Now, my plan is to do the Giro d'Italia. That's what I'm down for, because that will then give me enough time post the Giro, which finishes at the end of May, to be able to have June and July to get ready for the track objectives. The problem is flying back to Australia at the moment is you've got to do 2 weeks in quarantine, which doesn't help your preparation or your build-up, and that makes it a little bit of a tricky situation. There's also talk about, when you go to Tokyo, that possibly you're not allowed to go and train on the road because you're not allowed to be in any public spaces. You're only allowed to be within the hotel and the velodrome. For a marathon rider, that's not ideal, to be able to not be able to roll the legs out on the road and do a few more training on the road prior to the event. So it's making it a little bit difficult in the logistics, but the plan is 2 big objectives for the year is the Giro d'Italia and the Tokyo Olympics.
Iffy?
Well, I only hope you can get to do that. So, what's your first, like? You wouldn't go straight into the Giro. So, what would your first races be?
Coppa Bartoli in Italy, 5-day stage race, which is in the end of March, and then Tour of the Alps, also in Italy, is at the end of April. So, I get 2 5-day races in a lead up to the Giro that'll start in May.
Okay, all right. And then, of course, we got to get into the big question. Can you win a 3rd Aussie road title in a row and match me, mate? Can you?
I've had enough grey hairs and enough little bit of stress from that race over the last 3 years. I don't think I can think about next year. And I might have to call Durbo up actually and ask him if he's starting next year, because I might need him again.
Or you might have to ride for Durbo. You might have to switch it up. But yeah, no, stuff him.
Yeah, but
see if we can do it again.
I reckon that would just make me look bad though, because there's no way I could do a job that he does. Like, he's as strong as 10 men.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're actually talking to Durbo. For anyone who's watching right now, we're actually talking to Durbo on Monday evening. So it's his rest day. So we'll put it to him, mate.
Okay, righto.
We've got a few questions before we finish up from 47's TWM. He says, fantastic to hear someone at the very top level of a sport with characteristics of persistence, taking a few seconds rest and pushing to greater limits, from Tom Maloney. John Dam says, great interview, John Dan. Such a humble champ, achieved so much. We've got another one from Great Divide. Says, great to see you cruising around Perth this summer, Cam. Congrats on the back-to-back. And Wendy Superfan says, all the best for the year, Cam. Now, Cam, we'll finish it off. Obviously, you've had a lot of great mentors, the Stewies and all that in the early days, and you're sort of in that position now. But from the interview, you've had such a wealth of experience both on and off the bike. What are the key messages you've got for people, even if they're not cyclists, to sort of persevere and climb back up to the top of that mountain, mate?
Well, I think you've just got to enjoy whatever it is you're doing. I know things might get tough at certain stages, and we all go through our hard days, but find those little things that make you happy and keep doing it. If you don't find that happiness in the little things that you're doing, then those are the things that'll eat away from you. But like I said, the sun will come up tomorrow, and you can always enjoy a day that's coming up. So there's always light at the end of every tunnel.
Sensational advice, Cam, mate. It's been a fantastic interview. If you want to add anything before we go?
No, nothing to add to that, mate. Thanks very much for coming on board. As I say, it's great to be able to talk to a tracky roadie like we were back in the old days. Fantastic, bud.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Good on you, Cam. No doubt you're going to kick some serious ass in 2021, mate. We're looking forward to it. And thanks for tuning into the Detour. As Johnny said, we'll see you on Monday, chatting with Luke Durbridge. And we'll see if, Durbo agrees that Cam should ride for him at the Nationals next year. See you then.
And